Hello, friends. Welcome to Trending. Today is Thursday, June 22nd. It's about 9:50 as we're rolling this morning. Thanks to those of you watching and listening to the podcast. So grateful for you tuning in every week. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going, dude?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Tired. This is hockey camp week for the Skillies.
Yeah.
So they're tired. We got plenty going on.
Yep.
So I woke up today like, what day is it?
So far in the early summer weeks, that tends to be the recurring theme of your summer so far, Joe, is that you're sleepy. This is Sleepy Joe summer.
That's right. Hey.
I like it.
Yes.
All right, man. So I'll try to keep the intro brief here because we've got a big story that I think we'll probably spend quite a bit of time on. So the big thing that's on the top of all the news sites today, probably on the top of a lot of our minds, is this Titan submersible thing, this submarine ship that went under the water to go take a look at the Titanic. It's a big thing that all of us are following. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. There's 5 people on board, and it looks like, their oxygen is likely running low. There's a lot of people looking for them. The world's kind of bated breath, trying to keep an eye on this. So if people haven't heard, Joe, I guess, can you give us a quick recap of what you know about the story so far?
Yes, I've found a spot. I'm going to rattle off real quick. A submersible watercraft with 5 people on board has been missing since shortly after it set out early Sunday to explore the site of the Titanic shipwreck in the northern Atlantic. And this is a 22-foot carbon fiber and titanium craft. So it's kind of a marvel of engineering that they're using to try to do some deep space expedition. And they are trying to calculate how much oxygen can be left. That's not the only risk, because carbon monoxide?
Yeah, I think so.
Is also something that they are threatening, or that could be threatening. But some aircraft that are trying to help in the search rescue, they've been flying over the ocean. And this is kind of a cool thing. Like, they can detect noises underwater, even from above. And so they've got an area about the size of the state of Connecticut that they're continuing to search, obviously with time running out.
Yeah.
And so they just, of course, want to try to recover these folks in time. So that's where it's at. Mm-hmm. And so today's, I think, probably a very big day in this rescue effort, so they can try to find them in time.
And it's probably pretty likely by the time you were watching or listening to this, maybe there's some new news, so we don't, who knows what will happen in the next few hours or day or so. But I guess, Joe, it is one of these really interesting human interest stories. It kind of reminds me of the whole Chilean miner thing from several years ago.
Yeah.
Anytime when there's a group of people kind of stranded in a really tough situation, a unique situation, I think the world is just interested. Of course, these people matter. Of course, we want them to survive if they can. So I think we're all just interested in this. And it's also just this added layer of interest that they're underwater. It's like this whole new world. When you go that deep, there's just stuff that you and I have never seen. Most of us have no idea what's actually down there.
Right.
They're looking at the Titanic, which is this cultural icon. It's just a loaded story. Right. I guess one more thing that's just kind of interesting, and then I'll toss to you to get your thoughts, Joe. But these kind of trips are very rare and they're very expensive, right? So everyone on board paid a lot of money. I think $250,000. So there's 5 people on board, paid a lot of money. So one of the podcasts and some of the articles I read this morning were talking, I guess there's this new label called thrillionaires. So if you have so much money that literally you have everything else, so there's the only other thing that your money can buy you is these just really rare experiences. So we see these billionaires go into space all the time, right? And some of them go to Everest. And now I guess this deep sea exploration is kind of the new thing, where if you have a lot of money, sure, might as well go check out the ocean and see what's down there. And so some people are saying, is that dangerous? Is it right? This ship apparently didn't meet all the specs that most deep sea ships are supposed to do. So it's kind of well, we warned them this might happen. It's heartbreaking, but we told them this vessel wasn't safe.
Right.
But at the same time, people who are going to the ocean, people who are going into space that aren't government regulated, it's also true that they're discovering things that government regulated bodies aren't discovering because they don't have so much red tape. So it's kind of huge risk, possibly huge reward, but then this is the first time there's been a really heartbreaking thing where these people might be stranded. So it's complicated. There's a lot of layers.
That's
so
right.
What are some of the first things on top of your mind?
And I think you may have mentioned that they've been taking expeditions in these types of vessels before. This is not the maiden voyage of this thing, right?
I think about 3 years they've been doing it.
So so trip after trip has been fine. Obviously, there's some huge complications on this one, and it's tragic. I think maybe 2 or 3 things come to my mind with this story that I've been thinking about it as I've been listening to reporting. It's just, number one, maybe the easiest thing is that it's just so neat to see a great rescue effort that can scramble in a moment. There's interest. to try to find these folks, and they're leveraging all the opportunity. And this kind of calls to mind once again, I know that you're a big Marvel Cinematic Universe guy.
Yes.
There's just something in not all of us, but in some of us that runs toward danger instead of away from it, that wants to help right now. Like, I'll drop everything right now. There's just something that people have a different drive than others. And so it's neat to see these folks able to have a moment where they could try to help. Yeah. And let's hope that all the fruit of their labor, results in these folks being rescued in time. I think a second thing, and this is something that came up on the Mo News podcast. Listen to the Mo News. They just try to read the news in the most objective way possible. And they just talk about how there's an interesting split screen going on right now, because you do have these trillionaires.
Yes.
When I think about that, by the way, I think of, like, was it Bruno Mars? I want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
I want to be a trillionaire. Yes. All right, let's think about that. But you got like 5 trillionaires. Obviously, we want to see them rescued. We share, like, their common humanity with us. The other side, there's, on the other side of the world, there's this huge migrant ship that capsized in the Mediterranean. Yeah. 700 people aboard. I'm just looking at an article here in USA Today. 82 have already perished because of it. Yeah. Right. And so some of the Mo News audience is like, hey, like, it's great that we're highlighting what's going on with this submersible. Yeah. Can we also talk about folks who paid maybe a fraction of the cost, but it's all their worldly wealth, to try to migrate to a different place away from the political strife that they're in the world that they come from. Yeah. It's got barely no. So some might say, like, this is a justice issue. Some might roll their eyes at that, but it's an interesting split screen of the type of time and attention and empathy, sympathy that we give to maybe a few, when there's actually others out there who are experiencing equal tragedy that often go overlooked. So what does that say about our faith? Our faith, I love the way that, I think it was like Drew Dick, he's a theologian, maybe a public theologian. He says that grace is like water. It pools at its lowest point. And what the Christian gospel trains us to do, if we read it right, I think, read the gospels right, is to not look just at the folks with notoriety, important, prominent people, but look to the other corner of the room of the nameless, faceless crowds of people that don't have an advocate, that don't have anybody standing with them and who know their stories. We know that we're growing in gospel quotient and gospel awareness. Yeah. And we were like, hey, what about the little guy? Like, what about those who are forgotten about? Yeah. And so I think it's important for us to realize that there's profound challenges everywhere. So let's try to address all the challenges everywhere and to pray for those folks too. I think a third thing, this came up from our friend Adam Grant, longtime listener.
Yes. Hi, Adam.
Of Trending. What's up, bro? He posted this on his Instagram, and I'll put it on the screen for us. He's like, it just caught my attention as I was scrolling the IG today. Okay. He said, a note to everyone posting jokes and memes about the Titanic submersible. And I just stopped there. I'm like, are there seriously people posting jokes and memes about this? And I hope I don't sound, hot takey and judgmental. That caught me off guard. Like, is this really a thing? I mean, here's 5 people clinging on to life. Right. And the best that we can do is to make a meme about it, right? Yeah. He said this, making fun of other people's plight demeans you along with them. Regardless of the cause, ridiculing tragedy should be beneath all of us. Yep. Human suffering cries out for compassion, not Schadenfreude. That's some nice German word that he made up there. Nice. So, but I was thinking about that too, like, maybe this is a moment, this is kind of an autopsy of human experience, right? It can bring out the best of us. People are running towards the problem. Maybe it can also bring out the shadow of us that we can't see to help ourselves to, laugh and point the finger at people, maybe to make us feel better in the moment, knowing that we've got a lot going on in our own life. So I just think, man, like, we've got to, I agree with Grant. There's got to be a boundary, to some of this stuff, some of this ridicule that we just allow to go unchecked in our world. Yeah. Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yeah.
And this also reminds me of a quote I think we've mentioned before on here. I think it's from Mr. Rogers, that whenever there's a tragedy, look for the helpers. I just love that perspective, especially now as a parent, your parent. Like, it's like there's just always horrible news. There's always bad news. And so I think something that I think about often when things like this, like these poor people, like, what a heartbreaking situation. And look at the helpers. Like, there are people flying over the ocean, spending millions of dollars trying to figure out where these people are. And like you mentioned, those lives are valuable. Those migrant lives are also valuable. And whenever there's heartbreak, I just like that perspective of, instead of dwelling on the negative, look for the helpers, because there are always people willing to help. And I like that approach as well.
Yeah. I think maybe one last thing, something that is a theology that we get in a narrative form in the first 11 chapters of Genesis, called primeval history. We've talked about before here. Mm-hmm. But one of the themes of that part of Genesis, the kind of intro into the Genesis story, is whenever we try to reach past our boundaries, danger lies there. Yeah. There's that little neat line from Ecclesiastes, a couple of them, that says, if you dig a pit, you might fall into it. If you tear through a wall, try to expand your space, there might be a snake on the other side. Yeah. And although I think we do need to, with all of our ingenuity and with all of our interest, try to plumb the depths of oceans and the heights of skies, that there is a sense where there's a space where even angels fear to tread. And we've got to be careful, not in a paralyzing sense, but in maybe an awe and a wonder sense, that there just may be some things that we are not going to be able to know, and therefore to go try to find out, it just might not lead to the results that we care for. And people could be, there could be a human cost because of it. And so I think that also rises to the surface. I'm not saying I blame these people. Sure. I love their curiosity and I love their courage. Yeah. I think also stepping back, we got to say, okay, do we need to slow our curiosity and allow worship and wonder to take center stage at some depth, instead of seeing what boundaries we can continue to push past, thinking that we're going to be able to survive it. Right. Yeah.
That's part of the hard thing about this story, I think, is, like I said at the top, the people like these billionaires who are going to space, and now these people who are going out of the ocean, it's hard to reckon with, because they are doing dangerous things and they are expanding our knowledge. And there's so much that we don't know about the ocean. Kind of like the rainforest. What if there's some magical cure to cancer at the bottom of the ocean? It's possible.
Absolutely.
And so I think some personality types, some people are just drawn to exploration. People sailed across the ocean to get to America. There's people who take these huge risks, and there are amazing rewards. Yep. But with that come these huge risks. And so for me, the takeaway is, sometimes I think our technology advances so quickly that we're not ready for it yet, right? So we have this ship that can go 2,000 feet underwater. Sure, let's give it a whirl. Okay, some horrible things might happen. So I think some of this is also tech driven. We have this new technology. Let's try it. Sometimes I think we're just what's the line? Just because we can doesn't mean we should, right? This is maybe another example of that. There's got to be this balance of exploration and science and technology, but also caution, and listen to the people who have studied this and know what they're talking about. It's kind of a hard, dicey thing to wrestle with, I think.
Yeah. And you kind of wonder, what is there left to see in the wreckage of the Titanic? What's there to discover? I would love to see it too, as a tourist, as a curious person. How fun would that be? But that necklace from the movie's not there.
Right.
That was just a movie, guys. Yeah. Come on now.
Leonardo DiCaprio was not there.
No way. The internet told me. Abe Lincoln told me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, anyways, all right. That's good. Well, it is a heartbreaking story, and we'll keep watching. I'm sure you guys will too. And anxious to see it. And obviously, we hope and pray those people will be okay. But interesting story.
Yes.
Okay, before we forget, next week, Joe and I are both out of town on vacations, visiting family, both of us. And so we'll be off next week. Hopefully be back, hopefully the week after that, but no trending next week if you're looking for it. Hope to be back with a vengeance the week after that. So
you could pull up one from the archives for good old time's sake, nostalgia.
Exactly.
If you need a trending, if you really need a trending hit,
get the trending fix.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, as always, thanks so much for watching and listening. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, have a great weekend, everybody.
See you next time.